let's tackle the one of the week, man. They just got together. The running backs got together. I think
Beautiful.
old boy from the Chargers
Chargers,
set up a
Austin
little
Eckler.
Zoom meeting. Everyone's upset. Saquon Barkley's upset. Tony Pollard signed his deal. Saquon didn't sign it. Who's the other fellow that didn't sign it? AG. My mind's slipping me. Of
Dalvin
course.
Cook. Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook. No, so Dalvin doesn't have. He doesn't have one, right? I think that
He hasn't signed. I don't think, or
he hasn't signed. But the guys that have
Josh
been
Jacobs.
franchised, Josh Jacobs. He just left. He just left Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like he's showing up for camp. Now here are the numbers, AG. We'll put them out there. The running back franchise tag right now is $10.1 million. About
10 million.
Now it used to be 14, like 10 years ago.
Really?
Ezekiel Elliott signed a 6-year, $90 million deal recently. $15 million a year, $50 million guaranteed. Christian McCaffrey signed a 4-year deal for $64 million, which is $16 a year, $25.5 million up
guaranteed.
Front, $38 million guaranteed.
38 guaranteed.
Okay. So right now the gap between, let's just put it in percentages. It's $5 million, $6 million gap from Saquon Barkley to Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. But that's also a full 50% more, right? Than Ezekiel is going to make 50% more. Christian McCaffrey is going to make 50% more a year than Saquon or Josh Jacobs can sign by signing their tenders. In other words, if they signed and they don't have any other options, you sign your tender or you're not playing football. There is no other option. Because the way that we've done these deals, the way the owners fleeced the NFLPA, a running back in the National Football League whose lifespan is 29 years old, according to the bean counters, according to the analytics experts, and really, except for Adrian Peterson, let's be honest.
Yeah,
that number is not that far off, right?
No.
The more they run, the less valuable they become because I got more hits. I mean, Derrick Henry might reset this whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's nuts. But the reality here is, from the minute the first round draft pick signs, they can just, if they're 22 years old, they can just go, if I'm good, I am not going to be a free agent in this National Football League until 29 years old. And at that point, I make my rookie contract. I get franchised twice for $10 million or thereabouts. Okay. And I've made a ton of money. But when I start looking at my value, Saquon Barkley in particular, relative to everybody else on this team, my value to the New York Giants football franchise versus everybody else, versus Daniel Jones, who's about to make $40-some million a year, you just go, oh my God. What do you do, AG?
Oh man. I mean, it's a tough thing because it's the whole system of what the NFL is doing right now. The NFL for the last 10 years has created the passing league. It's a passing league from rule calling changes, penalties and all that competition stuff, to wide receivers. I mean, genetically just being taller and faster. Megatron. It started with Megatron, and now you got kids that are sick. Well over. I played with Andre Johnson. He was 6'4", 225. He went 4'4". Okay.
Julio Jones,
that was 2002, and he retired. He played for 10 years. Julio Jones was after him. So you have kids just like so. This game is tailored, and it's obviously about putting touchdowns in the end zone. The deep ball gets there faster. You got better quarterbacks, more accurate, more ability, like a Pat Mahomes, like a Josh Allen. So it's the game. The house is against the running backs right now. We're gonna talk gambling, Vegas stuff. Everything's against the running backs in terms of what they should try to earn. But their value, I think this is where the teams will get in trouble. It's going to bite them in the ass if they don't have that guy back there in that backfield when your quarterback is beat up, can't do some of the things like a Pat Mahomes can do or like a Josh Allen can do. That's when it's going to bite them in the ass because you want to move the ball. You want to drain the clock. Say if your defense is not playing up to snuff, you want to hold that ball. The only way you do it, you got a run game. You got an offensive line. You got some running backs back there that can drain that clock. So
guards are making franchise guard will make $7 million more a year than than a running back now.
Right.
Think about that.
Right.
That's nuts.
That is crazy. So to the ones, when I say to the ones, I mean the teams out there that are trying to predicate their offense on the pass game and devalue the running back like the Giants are right now, bringing in the kid from Jacksonville to try to replace Saquon. You know, I was like, that's a valiant effort, but that is no way comparison. Those two guys. Is the one kid a good running back? Yes, he's a good running back. He's no Saquon Barkley. You know,
right?
He's a guy. Saquon is a guy we saw win that game against the Packers in London last year. From his big play ability, from the start of the game to the end of the game, he was the main reason that game was won, and other games down the road for last season for the Giants. You know,
but AG, do you think that people are like the teams are just doing what they're supposed to do? Because like here's the example I've given everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in 2003, you and Priest Holmes were the top two running backs in the National Football League from yards per scrimmage, right? And arguably the best two running backs in the league. Okay, so you were averaging about 5 yards a carry. Tony Fisher was also averaging 5 yards a carry. And Najee was also averaging 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, we were putting
now we all know that your 5 yards a carry is different than their 5 yards a carry. Like we know that because we're football players. But when you think about it now, with the nickel defenses, 5 in the box, 6 in the box, getting 4.5 yards a carry ain't that hard for most of the game. From the 20 to the 20, I can hire damn near anybody. And they can get 4.5, 5 yards a carry. Now, when it gets down to, hey, we need a good running back, we need an Amon Green, now these teams are going to miss out. But from a bean counter standpoint, analytics guy, they're going to go, no. Why are we going to pay Amon X amount of dollars when I can pay Tony and Najee a fraction of that amount of money for when they go to the public?
Right.
They're all going to see 5 yards a carry, 5 yards a carry. And in the locker room, we're going, come on, man, it's Amon Green. You know what I mean?
Right.
Come on, man, it's Saquon Barkley.
Right.
But to the public, to the general manager, to the guys that are running the checks, it's so easy now because of analytics to go, oh, it's same. And I don't know what they do. Like Saquon, you hold out. If you hold out, you could stand on your morals and miss out on $10 million, man. Like I'm saying, where I'm sitting, $10 million sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna not hold out, but I'm at least say something like he was saying all off season, you know. But business, then you gotta be a smart businessman, because we already know when he's gonna set out the season how GMs are gonna think. Oh, he set out a season. You know, can he?
Well, Le'Veon Bell. Look what happened to Le'Veon Bell's career.
Exactly. You know, because if you take that year off, what you've been doing he already had the injury, but he came back, got back to regular Saquon. So you don't basically reset that where you're gonna have to reprove himself again, and that's an even tougher sell, because why? It's a year later, no football, no playing, and then it's a year later on his life. He's now 1 year older to what we're talking about, getting closer to 30. And then I remember before 03, I was getting report from the reporters in our locker room to hearing commentation on NFL Network about me. In 01 and 02, they're already saying I was long in the tooth. And I'm like, I'm not even 25 yet. I was like, what the
Just because of the carries, you mean?
Yeah. And I knew that. But you know what? It was just like, wow. Just the narrative was just interesting. And hearing it now and seeing it now, it's just like, man, it still ain't went nowhere. They're just doing it a little differently now, because now there's something strong. And it's the pass game for a lot of teams out there. They have these quarterbacks. They have wide receivers. And even the teams that are just like right at average, like the Giants, they still have a Daniel Jones who can chuck the ball. He's a running. I won't say he's running the mill, but he got a big deal. But that talent is there, and he has the wide receivers to help him out. So in that team, in that scheme. So
yeah, I think the hard thing is, I mean, if you're a running back in this day and age, do you start looking at yourself like, man, I got to be like a Deebo Samuel, I mean, I know he's, you start looking like, okay, do I just have to do I have to become more of a hybrid player? Do I need to like reclassify myself as a wide receiver, a slot guy?
I say what you got to do is, as a running back, you don't want to get into that mind game, for one.
Yeah.
Because then you're lost. You either say to yourself, like you declare it in the off season, because you got to train your body to be a Deebo Samuel. So I wouldn't start thinking that obviously right now. I'm thinking that back if we lost a playoff game or we didn't go, deep in the playoffs at all. I'm in January. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, next season, this is starting now. Our season just ended. Now I'm gonna be the runner that I know I want to be, the runner. Because I remember hearing this from a friend of Brett's. When Brett got inducted, I went out to Ohio, and I was at his party. And his college or his high school teammate came up to me and said, "Amon, I've been wanting to meet you." Shook his hand. He said, great to meet you. Long story short of it, though, he said, "Amon, Brett told me that you were the best pure running back that can, not pure running back, but running back that can do more than one thing. You could catch the ball and you could run the ball." Because he noticed that once he got to Minnesota with AP, that he was just a straight runner. We could give him the ball. That's what he is. He's a running back. He's not going to go run a screenplay. He's not going to go one-on-one in the slot against a linebacker or go on the edge and go deep route. No, that's not AP. AP is you give him the ball, he runs. That's it. But I could run screens. I could run routes against linebackers. I could pick up the blitz very well and all that stuff. And that was the difference. So they these players, these running backs, got to know who they are way before the season starts, because then that determines on how successful they're going to be, basically.
And so then it lends the question: if you're playing the running back position, you came from Seattle, but like really, your Seattle, like that Seattle door closed early, and your Green Bay door opened when you were quite young.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get on these teams that end up wanting to build their offense at least partially around your style of play,
correct?
Like these good teams, the smart teams that are like, we were just talking about with Joe Barry, like, I've got guys that can do this. I better start using that more.
Exactly.
Amon can catch screens in addition to everything else. We should probably become a good screen team. Those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're there, this is the other hard part for, I think, the running back position. It's not like Christian McCaffrey goes from Carolina Panthers who want to run the ball to the San Francisco 49ers who want to run the ball. But a lot of guys, they'll go from a team whose philosophy, I went from a team that wanted to be a top 3 offense to a team that wanted to be a top 25 to 30 offense. They just wanted to be average. They didn't care in Carolina. And so when that happens, like the ability to use a specific skill set that you might have, whether it's frequency, whether it's style of runs, whether it's a little of the plays they call, it changes. And so it's hard for these guys like Saquon. Like Saquon's always going to be good. Josh Jacobs is always going to be good, but are they better is Saquon better with the Giants than he is if he goes somewhere else? Probably, because he's the feature guy.
Yeah.
Because without Saquon, it don't work there. No. But he can go somewhere that they've got a good quarterback, they get a good wide receiver, and all of a sudden, like, he might not be the number one option. And maybe that's important to him, either from a production standpoint or just like, dude, I want to be the face of the franchise. I don't want to leave. And I think that's the hard part where we get to this ultimately is like, dude, he's the face of your franchise. He's the MVP of your team, and you're not required to pay him. And Ezekiel Elliott, when Ezekiel Elliott signed that deal, I think every rational person was like, well, that's going to backfire. Like, it's just, it just didn't, like, he doesn't come off as the kind of guy that was going to work out for, whether it was for for whatever reason.
Yeah. I was hoping, I liked him. I was hoping to.
Yeah, but it ends up being a bad deal,
exactly.
But is Saquon that guy? You know what I mean? And the Dallas Cowboys have Tony Pollard. They have Dak Prescott. They had CeeDee Lamb, or they at the time they had Amari Cooper. So it's like they have other guys there. So you start going like, dude, if he fails at all, getting paid all that money, dude, they'll just go to all these other dudes, right? But Saquon, looking at Saquon, like, what other dudes?
Exactly.
There's nobody else here. It's me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And see, that's the difference between him and Ezekiel. Ezekiel was that one step and go. He got the ball. He was downfield. He had the line to do it too, where you didn't have to think about much. Just get upfield. He got Pro Bowl guards in there. And now in Ezekiel, the line better than I do. So from an offensive lineman standpoint what he can do and what he has to deal with game by game. So he knows his game has to be a little bit more dynamic. So he can run the ball, but then he could get out on the edge. He will do the screen game. They do the screen game with him very well, and he catches the ball very well out of the backfield. So that's kind of where he is a little different than Ezekiel here in this situation.